Hello and welcome to another edition of Video Games to the Max. This is episode 412. I am your host, Sean Garmer. Here with me is, wow, first time in a few weeks, Marc Morrison is back.
Yep.
Glad to have you
Thankfully.
back. And we will be talking about Gamescom 2024, like our best games that we saw announcements for, some news coming out of that, of course. You know, Mark wasn't here for 3 weeks. This couldn't have happened beforehand, but poor Mark has to come back to talking about Xbox and the third party stuff again. We'll get to that with the one more thing being an Indiana Jones release date reveal. I don't know if that's good or bad, that's how low we've gotten to one more thing being a reveal for a release date on another console. We'll talk about Black with Wukong, the waves that game has been making, and some other stuff as well. So let's get strapped in and ready for talking about all that stuff right after this.
You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
All right, so yes, just let's go ahead and get this out of the way here. This is your first time watching live or listening later on podcasts or watching later on YouTube on demand. We do appreciate you. We do the show around this time, 5:30, 6 o'clock, a little bit earlier sometimes, depending on who's on. But this is usually the day we do it, is at least on Mondays in the afternoon. So if you want to watch live, you can tune in YouTube, W2 Network, Facebook, W2 Network, or even on Twitch, W2 Network over there. You can always watch on demand whenever you want. If you subscribe to the channel, you can get, press that bell, do all that stuff, get the notifications for whenever we do a show. And not only do you get what we do here with the video game stuff, if you like other things like anime, entertainment, that stuff, we have shows for that as well. So on the anime side, you can go watch Otaku Cafe. They review everything has to do with anime, man. They review all the new stuff every season. They're talking about it. I mean, not every freaking show. There's way too many, but they review all the ones they like, and they do awards at the end of those seasons. So definitely worth checking out. And then on the movies, TV side, the Ratchet Broadcasting people are always doing something big. They just reviewed the Alien Romulus movie, so you can definitely go check out their thoughts on that. They did the Acolyte show as well, that unfortunately has not been renewed for a season 2, but hey, you can check out their thoughts on that. And of course, you can always listen on podcasts later. Just go search any of those shows individually, Video Games to the Max, Ratchet Broadcasting, or Otaku Cafe, and find them on the pods of your choice. So with that out of the way, Mark, how's your time away been here?
It was hellish, so I'm glad I'm back home.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
All I had to sustain me was a tablet that you can't really do much on.
Well, I'm guessing you didn't take your laptop because you didn't think you were going to be there that long, right?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be there for 4 days, not 14. So
right, yeah.
Lesson learned: take a laptop next time.
Yeah, for sure. Mark's also seen Deadpool, Wolverine, so I'll finally get to talk about that with him maybe at the end of the episode. But did you watch anything from Gamescom Opening Night Live or?
I watched the first one, or like the main show.
The main show, okay.
It was fine. I thought the girl was pretty bad. The co-host. They can never get a good co-host. I don't know why. I mean, there are obviously hosts that exist. Yeah. So it's like, why can't you just hire one of those people? Like,
I mean, I think he just tries to get different people, so it's not. I mean, he could easily just probably get Sydney Goodman or one of the Andrew Renee or anybody, and one of the ones that he's had on there doing the pre-show before. Even Kyle Bossman did the pre-show this year for Gamescom. He could get any of those people, but I think he tries to give somebody else a chance because they're in the streamer community, which draws other eyes. I kind of get it, but like you said, it doesn't always work out.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah, I thought it was an okay enough thing. I mean, a lot of their stuff didn't hit well for me. But yeah, what'd you think?
Yeah, same here. I don't think that this was. Look, let's be honest. Gamescom Opening Night Live is in the third tier when it comes to the Keighley things, right?
Right.
Game Awards is number one, and then Summer Game Fest. It's kind of right up there because it's replaced the E3. Even though this kind of feels more like what E3 used to be because you have like everybody going and all that kind of stuff. But and you have the show floor stuff afterwards as well.
Right.
But as far as the actual like thing, this is kind of like the kickoff to that. And yes, a lot of the stuff that is in here is kind of the bigger stuff that gets announced during the whole 3 or 4 days. I think once you find out that people have to like pay to be included in here, it doesn't feel as curated as maybe Game Awards or the Summer Game Fest stuff does.
Right.
And it definitely does feel like, okay, you got some decent stuff in here. But you got some things in here where it's just kind of like, all right, whatever. This kind of feels like an ad, and yeah.
I thought that Dune game looked pretty bad.
Yeah.
Personally, especially like once they broke out like the whole base thing, I'm like, okay, like this looks very complicated and not great. And it was funny because I watched that Lost Records Bloomin' Rage trailer.
Yes.
And like this was before like the title card or whatever, but I was like, what this Life is Strange looking knockoff? And then I was like, oh, okay, it's Don't Nod making it. So,
right, yeah, it's Don't Nod making their closest thing I think they've made to Life is Strange.
Yeah.
Now that they don't work with the IP, so
right. So yeah, since they can't make anything with it, so
I mean we have a new Life is Strange coming out pretty soon. So
right.
I guess we'll see now that Don't Nod's not working on it, even though Deck Nine's made other Life is Strange games at this point too, so it's not like their first one.
Right.
Anything that you did like from the show that stood out to you?
I'm kind of curious about that Secret Level thing, that TV show.
Yeah, TV show.
What they're going to do with that.
Yeah, got some big some kind of big names in there. Sony shows that, I mean, Kratos, God of War is getting its own show on Amazon, so that kind of makes sense that you have Kratos in there, but it's supposed to be like a kind of like a mixture of different Sony properties, and they also got Concord separately, which I don't know if I would have made a big deal about Concord being one of the things.
It's a big hit of the year.
Very unfortunate for those devs working on that game for 8 years and for it to bomb like that. It's
yeah.
But
yeah, everything else seemed fine, I guess.
Yeah, I was interested in the Secret Level show, made by the Level and Robots. That team, it kind of feels like their take on video games with that, which I like that. I watched the first season. I haven't watched the second one. And I liked it well enough. So looking to kind of what they're going to do with that with games should be pretty good.
Yep.
One that drew my attention because I really liked Little Nightmares, and Little Nightmares 3 did show up in here. But of course, that's not the original dev team that's making it. That's like now a kind of a dev team that helped Tarsier Studios on Little Nightmares 2, and they've kind of taken that over for Bandai Namco now. And now Tarsier went, and they're now a Embracer studio, and they're making their own game called Reanimal. Definitely looks a lot like Little Nightmares, so you can see that the whole influence is there. A lot of the same kind of art style, whatever. But hey, I'm down for another one of those existing. It looked really good to me. I don't know if that's your jam.
You don't want to talk about Borderlands 4?
Well, I mean, it's Borderlands. No. I mean, we really didn't get anything about the game other than, hey, look, it's Borderlands. Be excited about it. We thought we were going to have this amazing movie that everybody's going to be hyped about, and that wasn't good. So You know.
No, he didn't. I never thought it'd be good. So
No, not us. I'm talking about them. I'm sure Randy Pitchford probably thought, oh yeah, this is a great like 1-2 punch. We're gonna get a big time selling Borderlands movie, and then we're gonna get this announcement of Borderlands 4, and it's gonna be hyped out of the moon. And no, it didn't happen like that.
Yep.
It was definitely the biggest announcement, of course, IP wise, probably from like the first half of that show. I guess you could argue also like the Batman Arkham Shadow game, but that's also being VR kind of.
That looked bad. I actually thought like
I don't know. That looked interesting to me. I hate that it's in VR. I don't want to go buy a MetaQuest 3 for that. Like, I like that. You know, the one that they had at the beginning of was a PSVR 1 with the Batman, where you just kind of like do Batman stuff inside his where he lives or whatever, and then this one kind of like actually lets you play as Batman, do the whole as if you're playing one of the games. So
the first one I think was more of a detective game or more
exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, they showed more of that Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. So, you know,
I like how they're like, oh, we have a secret character, and it's like what the 80s first version of Goku, like
yeah. So okay, we're gonna have another version of Goku there. That's for sure on that. You weren't excited about the Dying Light, the Beast? I know you.
No, I don't like Dying Light 2 that much. So
okay.
I wish I did, but yeah.
The whole thing it being a DLC that got expanded thing always kind of worries me because it either turns out really decent or it turns out kind of So I don't know. Hopefully it's more on the decent to good side.
Yeah.
But we'll see on that. More Monster Hunter Wilds, which that continues to look good. I know you're a big fan of Worlds, so
yeah, but I haven't liked any of the other ones. So,
but this one's definitely modeled after Worlds, so you'll probably like it more than
I don't know. I thought Civ 7 looked pretty good.
Yeah, that one got a big blowout between there and then also the Future Games show kind of revolved big time around it as well. So I mean that's good for free access to kind of give that game its due. It is a big one.
It needs to be a Midgar city though.
I mean, I would buy it if they put that one in there.
Build the Midgar plate. You know, that'll be the official.
You know, if they put that in as DLC, I think they could get a lot of people in there for that.
Yeah.
Would be interesting if they could make a deal with but I don't think so. What do you think of seeing Peter Molyneux again with this Masters of Albion in here?
I had a talk with Jens about it kind of because it's like I don't like his games personally. The only game I've ever liked from him was Fable 3.
Okay,
and that's one everyone else hates, or that
Right.
I mean, Jens correctly said like, oh, everyone Fable 1 and 2 are like the better games.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, but I didn't like them, so they're and I really didn't like his other work or his early. I guess I haven't played much of it.
Right.
But yeah, he seems increasingly like a con artist.
Yeah,
like,
definitely got the grifts going on there.
Yeah, that Master of Albion one looks like Fable smashed with black and white.
Yeah, with the God game stuff. Yeah,
well, especially with like the hand, you can pick up your citizens and throw them around or do whatever you want. So I'm like, yep, I see what you're doing with this. I mean, hey, if it's an actual game, good on him, but we'll see what screwball thing he tries to do with it.
Yeah, it's interesting that he said it's kind of in the Fable universe, but not. And then he's like, well, technically they can't trademark Albion because it's an old city in the UK or whatever.
Well, that's like what the Great Britain is like known, or one of the other names for it. So
yeah. So I was like, well, I mean, I just wouldn't go around being like, oh yeah, it's part of Fable, because then Microsoft could technically go after you. So I would kind of shut up about that, let the game come out, and then if you want to talk about it, do it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they necessarily want you associated with it.
He's just trying to get Microsoft to buy it from him.
Yeah, probably be like, hey, come and offer me some of that Game Pass money or whatever, and see if that hits it for you. Another game that I'm sort of interested in as well from that, probably the last one I think that is Mafia: The Old Country. I like the Mafia games, so the fact that this is kind of, at least they're hinting that they're going back to Italy and that there's another Mafia game, I'm down for that. So awesome to see that it is existing and happening. Everything else was kind of like, okay, we know it exists. Cool that it got another trailer. Like a lot of the Microsoft stuff. Microsoft came out big on this thing. They had all 3 days of showing off games. Now you can kind of see why they're not going to be a Tokyo Game Show, because they elected to basically just blow out everything here at Gamescom. It kind of makes no sense for them to show up in a month or two again in Japan, where they don't really have a big presence, and I don't think they have anything big to show outside of the fact that they have that marketing deal with Atlas for the I can't think of the name right now.
Phantasmo,
Metaphor Refantasio.
Yeah.
So, look, it was a decent show. At least Jeff didn't talk the whole time, which is good. And it felt like there wasn't as many ads. But again, this is because Gamescom pays for this thing. And
Jeff the whole thing was one big ad. So
so it doesn't feel like, oh, we're just running 20 minutes of ads.
Right.
But cool. The rest of the stuff, I mean, it's kind of like E3. You can go take your pick on stuff that you find on that they showed off on the short floor that you liked. I didn't get to watch too much of other stuff because just it's like way too time consuming, and after a while it kind of starts just running into like, it feels like starts feeling all the same after a while.
Yep.
So the kind of the biggest news out of this whole thing, which I know is not your favorite thing to talk about, Mark, is Microsoft basically getting closer and closer to basically ripping off the Band-Aid and just saying, hey, we're going to be third party. We're not going to ever tell you straight up that we are, but we are. And nothing was more prevalent than what they did here. As the one more thing for that opening night live was Indiana Jones and the Great Circle finally gets the release date. It's December 9th, which lots of games are starting to come out in December now. For some reason, we all got to wait till the end to do the game of the year stuff. And then not only that, but we have one more thing, and it's the fact that there's a PS5 release date already. The game hasn't even come out yet, and already that in about 3 months or so, 4 months at the most, there's going to be a PS5 version.
Yep.
And then of course Phil had to go on. He had an interview with Sarah Bond, where this is with the Xbox On team. And he was basically asked the question about what are we supposed to make of the Indiana Jones announcement that close to
Phil doesn't know those answers.
Right. I mean, he knows those answers, but he's going to give the answer that he wants to give. Basically, so here's what he said. Going to the PlayStation announcement, they announced that stuff about the 4 games going to the other consoles. And he said when he sees what happened after that, they said they were going to learn and all this, that he sees that the franchises are getting stronger. The Xbox console players this year are as high as they've ever been. So I look at it and say our player numbers are going up for the console platform. Our franchises are strong as they've ever been, and we run a business. And he added, this is really the first time I feel like he's ever really talked about including Microsoft in this, where it definitely feels like he's kind of just pretty much saying, listen, we now have to answer to people. We don't just get to be Xbox and be on the side over here. It's definitely true inside of Microsoft that the bar is high for us in terms of delivery, that we have to give back to the company because we get a level of support from the company that is just amazing in terms of what we're able to go do. So I look at this, how can we make our games as strong as possible and ensure that our platform continues to grow both on console, PC, and cloud? And I think it's just going to be a strategy that works for us. He once again mentions later that the business is changing, and that we're going to see this happen. And then, people should expect changes and all this stuff. So he kind of, at the end, tries to turn it into, we're not going to be the only one that does this, by the way. You're going to start seeing this happen. Technically, I guess you could say that Sony's done it now with the Horizon Lego game, putting it on Switch. But I don't think that's the same. And they put, they're putting a bunch of their games on PC. Until Dawn Remake is coming out day and date PC. The Concord just came out on PC. God of War Ragnarok is
not according to Steam charts.
Yeah. Well, it did, but are people playing it? That's two different things, right? And is God of War Ragnarok's coming out on PC? Obviously, that's a delayed thing, as they said they were going to do. So is he wrong in that? Yes. Sony is obviously feeling the hurt from they're paying too much to make their games and they're having to put some of them on PC, but they're not doing it like this. The way Microsoft is doing it is just basically like they've admitted that their console does not sell as well as it should. You can blame whatever you want to blame on it. And that they need money from the other things. They also got to pay off this big debt from the Activision acquisition and Bethesda acquisition and all that stuff. He mentions that as well. So at this point, and then they also announced 3 other Xboxes at this thing. An all digital Series X, another Series S, and I forgot what the other one is. Regardless,
Series X.
Yeah, white Series X. Okay.
Is that the disk drive?
Oh, the 2 terabyte Series X, which costs $600, which that makes sense. It's another whole terabyte of storage. That's basically what they do. They charge you $100 per terabyte of storage that they put in these things. Whether it's correct or not, that's just what they do. So I'm pretty sure the PS5 Pro, I would be very surprised if PS5 Pro is less than $550, honestly. But we'll see. Supposedly Tokyo Game Show is when they might announce that thing. Of course, they've been saying that for a while. Every time we get to a certain point, it should be announced by now, and they don't announce it. So I would guess Tokyo Game Show is the last time.
I no longer believe any hardware rumors at this point.
Well, we know this. We know the Nintendo one's coming. It's just whenever the heck Nintendo feels like actually announcing that.
That's an inevitability. But it's like, remember that all the Switch Pro rumors? And remember how
but we know the PS5 Pro is in development. I think Sony has officially said there is a PS5 Pro. They just don't. They've never actually said we're going to announce it on this day or whatever. But honestly, I feel like I kind of get what Phil's doing here, right? He can't fully go, listen, all of the stuff is going to show up on PlayStation because then nobody will buy their next box. Right. And they're going to make a next box. They already said they were. They're already in development on it. I'm sure that's costing them millions, to be doing R&D for and all that stuff. But I've seen a lot of articles come out now that say that we deserve, or we should be getting a timeline from Microsoft of when these games are going to be coming to other systems. And that they need to just kind of embrace the whole, we're not third party, but we are going to release more of our things on PlayStation. Do you kind of go that route of, do you just rip the Band-Aid off?
I want them to personally. But I think like a timeline idea is also a bad idea, because it's to say like, hey, every Xbox game 6 months from now is going to be on PS5. It's like, well, no one's going to buy an Xbox game, period, or, an Xbox after that. So they kind of have to play coy a little with some of this stuff. I saw the rumor that like Halo went to come to PS5, which is hysterical.
Yeah, for Forza Horizon 5 was a big rumor as well.
I wouldn't mind that because the PC version's kind of busted, so I'd probably get that. But I think Halo, if Halo came to PS5, that's it for Xbox as like a viable console, or then it's just going to be Sony versus Nintendo, because it's like, who's ever going to buy this again?
It's interesting because like they have that thing with Gears ETD, right? Of technically that's a Microsoft big time property. Like, are you also releasing that in 4 months on PlayStation as well? Or are you going to keep that one longer in the vest because they don't have access to the other Gears games? Like, that's the thing, is this one you can kind of say, well, technically it's not our decision, right? And to an extent, yes, it's not their decision. Disney could have come and said, listen, we don't care about how much money you paid to make it exclusive. We'll give you a certain window, and then you're going to have to put it on PlayStation 5 or on the other console because we need the most sales as possible.
Yeah, right? It's like that MLB game, or, like the show.
Yeah. Could it have always been that there was only a 4 or 5 month exclusivity window, and Xbox just kind of did this because I guess it doesn't matter, right? It's not their game. It's weird, right? It is weird because it's an Xbox studio making it, and it's going to show up not day and date, but it's going to show up pretty quickly. And even before you didn't even let it release on Xbox, and then kind of be out there and then say, oh, hey, it's also coming to PS5. You did it before it even came out. So like now people have the option to wait. Nobody's buying an Xbox. They may not even, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if somebody subscribes to Game Pass for a month and plays it, and then if they want to buy it on their PS5, they can. I guess that's a win for Microsoft too. But I don't know. Do you think that their hand was forced here, or did they just go ahead and do it because they don't think that it's going to matter too much?
I think it does matter to them quite a bit, but I think it's a problem of they haven't been good stewards of their franchises over the past 10 years. So they're kind of it's a problem of their own making. And I mean, sure, the sales haven't necessarily been there either. I mean, what was it, like Xbox is down 30% this year?
Yeah, it's like their consoles are like 42% down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Sure, I mean, you can both consoles are comparable power wise. I mean, but you have to look at like Xbox's overall output. And I think their problem is they vastly overpaid for Activision. Well, they didn't overpay, but they got obsessed with Activision, and it's like, yo, you have existing IP that you fucked up. So why are you trying to go after this, all these companies, and you're not going to, I mean, all you're going to care about is Call of Duty anyway. So
yeah, they're basically just trying to kind of be the ones that now we get the money from World of Warcraft, Candy Crush, Call of Duty, and then whatever else it is that they had, Diablo, whatever else that they happen to make, right? Which in a way, I guess, makes sense, right? That's the biggest publisher in America, perhaps globally even.
I mean, I don't fault them for going after Activision. Like, it's a theoretically good idea, but like they're going after it because their own franchises, they're not bad franchises, but they've led to bad outcomes. Like the only franchise that's like viable is Forza.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, you had Gears and Halo, and look what happened to those. Like Gears kind of fell away, and people are supremely unhappy with Halo.
Yeah. It started to come back a little bit, but again, it's like one of those where it's too little too late. You made the first impression, and then now it's just kind of like, okay, great. It's like the same thing as some other live service games where it's like, oh, great, you're still existing, but we no longer care whether you're still existing or not, because you kind of screwed it up the first time. You know, my issue has always been they don't do and you know, even the European market came out and said that they're not giving this huge amount of money on marketing, which is weird for somebody to come out and say, but I do think that they've done a really bad job of marketing Game Pass. There are so many people that have no idea that thing exists. Like, seriously, talking to I'm just saying from a general non-hardcore gamer person. I was talking to my trainer the other day. He plays games. He had no idea about Game Pass, and that all he had to do was subscribe and he could play it wherever, even on his phone or.
But does he have an Xbox?
No, but you don't need an Xbox. That's the point.
No, but like, it's still an intrinsic thing. Like, you know, I would never get Game Pass because I don't give a shit about playing games on a phone.
Well, but you could play on your PC. You could play it on other things. You could play it on. You don't, but I'm just saying, you know, in a. Okay, I don't have an Xbox, but even if you have an Xbox One, you could still.
No one is going to play, like your trainer example. It's like you're not going to tell someone, hey, get Game Pass to play on a PC, because A, they wouldn't have a PC at all, or if they did, it'd be some Chromebook or something that probably couldn't even run the damn thing anyway. Like, you need like that hardcore. You need at least a modicum of the hardcore mindset to get like to be interested in Game Pass.
Yeah,
because most people
he has a Switch and a PS5 or whatever. Right. You know, his thing was that I think it was Call of Duty, right? He was playing Call of Duty with a friend, and I just kind of mentioned Game Pass, and then there was some other. I can't remember with some. I think we were talking about Halo. And I said, "Oh, you know, there's a Game Pass."
Yeah, but
right.
Yeah, but that's a very bad proposition for him, because it's like, why would I pay, you know, $20 or $15 a month for 12 months when I could just buy the game for $70 and have it for the rest of the year?
No, I get it. I'm just saying, in general, I feel like to the people outside of.
I have the mindset that everyone who has an Xbox already has Game Pass.
Yeah, well, I mean, now they do, right? Because if you had gold before, they transferred you over. So
yeah, but I mean, that it can't be an infinitely growing thing. Like
no, it can't. But that's also why this whole idea about the console's going to go away is not going to happen, because they need the console in order for Game Pass to work.
Right.
Most of the people that own Game Pass have it on the console, not on something else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like them going like, oh, we put Game Pass on the Fire Stick 4K or whatever. It's like, okay, I'd like to see a breakdown of users from each, you know, Samsung TVs, PC, console, and Fire Sticks. Like, what's the breakdown going to be? 2%?
Well, yeah, but even the thing is, you have to be somebody that's a total casual gamer that doesn't play something like Call of Duty, because even when you compare it to like the TV app, the Fire Stick is so much slower at doing everything. Yeah. So that's the problem is, and I think that's, you know, I don't know if Microsoft's ever going to come out with their own thing that they're just going to release themselves. That's called Microsoft. It's called Xbox, or they're just going to keep partnering with all these people, you know, different TV companies, and eventually get it growing that way. But that it's not great, the options that you have if you don't own PC or have a device that runs cloud well, you know. So that thing about you don't have to have a box is true, but are you really giving people the best experience with the I don't have to have a box thing either? So
no.
I think the technology is nowhere near there, at least for this next generation. Now, after that generation, who knows what consoles are going to be doing at that point. After this next generation, but for this generation coming, there's at least going to be a box, because there's not enough technology around for cloud gaming to work for everybody, for even PC gaming to work, even though it feels like a lot more people are buying PCs now. than in the past. It feels like every time I turn around, somebody's going, "Oh, I'm just going to buy a PC." And I guess Microsoft wins that way too, because Windows and all that junk. I think my thought of this, and I don't know, that this is kind of what I look at it as. I feel like Microsoft just looks at the Xbox now as another product that they make. Just like their Surface tablets, their whatever laptop or other thing that they make, we're not the market leader there, but we don't care because you're buying our products. So as long as you buy our games, whether that's Call of Duty, Avowed, whatever, Indiana Jones, we don't care as long as you're buying our products. And the box is just the thing that you're going to use to play those games on. And we don't care whether you buy that box or not either. And as long as you keep buying those games, we'll make enough money to keep making your box that you want. I don't know. That was the only conclusion I could think of that this makes sense for them, is that they think that they'll sell it just like they do with every other thing. Microsoft is mainly a software maker, that they will make enough money off software that they can take the loss on the hardware.
I think for that to happen, they have to have good software. And no, or let's just say it's been shaky.
Yeah, I mean, I think Indiana Jones is going to be good. I think Avowed is going to be good. Is it going to be amazing? No, probably not. I think that's the problem, is that everybody wants every game that they make now to be amazing, and Starfield was supposed to be the first amazing one, and it wasn't that.
I mean, aside from I'm going to discount Forza out of this equation because that's always decently good. But like, what's their last big AAA game that was like legitimately great?
What was the last, like, Gears 4? Yeah, probably the Gears 4 was the last one that I remember getting universally praised like that at bonkers numbers.
And if you're saying Gears 4, that was 8 years ago.
Yeah, because like all the Bethesda stuff was before they bought Bethesda, so that doesn't really count. And Deathloop was wonderfully praised, but that was Bethesda before they bought Bethesda too.
Right.
So since they bought Bethesda, if we're going to start there, because that's basically when Microsoft really changed, I can't really think of like this game that everybody goes, "Oh my God, you have to play this," outside of like small stuff like Pentiment was wonderfully loved. Hi-Fi Rush again, but it's not something that's going to sell your console. It's wonderfully loved by all of us hardcore gamers, but
I mean, that's like the biggest problem is they need 5 to 10 AAA hits. They need the Halo Infinite to like actually be good and hit as hard as Halo 3 did, and that didn't happen.
And I think they see that. I mean, again, Indiana Jones is probably out of their. They weren't the only ones that have a say in that. Again, Disney can have a say and tell you, look, this is what you agreed on. We're going to shorten this window, or it was always 6 months, and then that's it. It goes to PlayStation after that. Whatever that is, I don't think Indiana Jones is going to be that critical hit either. It looks pretty good, honestly. The more I see of it, the more I'm interested in playing it. But again, I don't have to. I can just put it on. I already have Game Pass. I can just put it on, try it there. If I don't like it, big deal. But I don't think there's anything like coming down the line that makes me go, because Avowed got delayed again. Again, it looks good, but I think they're delaying it because they know it's not something that's gonna sell consoles or whatever. It's just a game that's going to be on. It's great for Game Pass, right? It's a thing that you can put on the thing for Game Pass to say, "Oh, here's another one of our really great game, really good games that you can enjoy." Even Towerborn is going to go on Steam Early Access first. It's not even going to go on the game preview thing, which is weird, but I understand because Steam Early Access is like more tried and true. We saw what happened with Power World, where it took them, I think it took 3 weeks for them to make one patch for the game preview, whereas they could do it instantly with Steam.
Right.
So they feel like it's not ready for such a big audience. That was what the developer said. So this is why Microsoft is letting them do it. After that, with Clockwork Revolution, we kind of don't know enough about what that is. Like maybe State of Decay 3, maybe Gears, that game. Aside from Fable could, right. Yeah.
Well, so many of those still are like unknowns, like Perfect Dark, for example. It's like, okay, that trailer looked kind of cool, but like, when is that thing coming out? Like,
that thing's farther away. I wouldn't be surprised. They said Fable is 2025, for sure. Avowed now is 2025.
That goes back to my point, though. That they're bad stewards of even their existing franchises. So,
yeah, they just and that's another thing too. Is like you said, it's not just bad stewards. It's how many years during the not only Xbox One but even the beginning of this generation did they just have nothing come out? Like, so you're paying for Game Pass to have third-party games and indie games, and again, that's cool for somebody like me that we're playing games because we have things to talk about on the podcast or reviewing games or whatever. But the casual gamer out there looks at Game Pass and goes, what am I supposed to do with this? There's not really anything new for me to play. I don't really care about these older games, or I may have played them already or whatever. So there's nothing there for them to really necessitate them buying that.
Yep.
So, Xbox, as you said, they led themselves here. And then when they started buying publishers, and especially buy one as big as Activision Blizzard, Microsoft starts paying attention. You got to start making money. And Microsoft says, hey, and I think this is where Xbox kind of hurts itself too. Phil keeps being the public face of everything. Sarah Bond as well. And then they end up talking in circles, saying one thing and then going around and saying something else, and then going to the next interview and saying something else. And now Phil looks like a liar.
Yep.
So not helping yourself there. I don't think Xbox's strategy is wrong necessarily. I think they might be right in a way. I think we are going to start seeing Nintendo might start giving out their IP to other people to make those games come out faster, maybe. Especially if Switch 2 is as big a success as the Switch 1 was. Sony's already putting stuff on PC. They might do a little bit more with Switch 2, especially again if Switch 2 is the big moneymaker that everybody thinks it's going to be. A lot of rumors going around right now. Tom Henderson said that at Gamescom, a lot of people talking about possibly a Sony, if not also Microsoft handheld happening. That's not the Portal. That's probably more akin to like a PSP or PS Vita. What do you think of? So do you think that would help those two companies if, say, they came out with their own version of the Switch?
I mean, Sony already has that stupid portal thing.
Right, but that's not a Switch. That is you can only go in your house, have to connect it to the PS5, and hopefully it works for you.
It would depend highly on if it could run Steam games. That's probably the number one thing.
Yeah.
And then how much of a degradation would like running God of War Ragnarok be on that thing? Or, I mean, how compressed can they make it?
Yeah. And I just to get to the last thing on this is the other big kind of thing people have talked about that would help Xbox, especially with their new box, is what if they made it like a PC, completely a PC? It's open to everything. You can play Steam games on it. It's basically like you can use it as a Steam box or whatever. Do you think that would perhaps kind of like the Steam Deck? It hasn't sold a gazillion units, but it sells decently enough, and then Steam and Valve keeps doing what they do. Do you think that helps Xbox if, say, they just open it up to let you play everything?
No, because then why would you play Xbox games?
Right, but okay, if I can use my Steam library and I can just use an Xbox and I don't have to have like the big picture mode, I don't have to go buy a Steam Deck. I just have my Xbox and I get to use it as the thing that I put on my TV.
But then why would you pay for Game Pass then either?
No, I agree with
okay,
you. Yeah,
a regular person, not you specifically, but like, I mean, if it's a choice between like an Xbox or a home PC, the home PC is more technically burdensome, or most people might not be able to figure it out. It's to dumb it down enough for people to understand Steam. But then once they get into Steam, they'd be like, "Why would I ever go back to Xbox again?"
right. No, you're right about that. Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing people play because right now you can do the GeForce Now thing on it, where you bought the game on Steam. People are playing Black Myth Wukong on the Xbox through the GeForce Now thing.
Right.
So I guess they just want a portal to where you can just directly play your Steam games through there.
Besides, if you're gonna talk about that, you need to bring out the Infinium Labs Phantom console.
Yeah. But we'll see how this progresses. I'm sure we will get more stuff with Xbox before we even get to Indiana Jones coming out. Still a lot of months to come. Who knows? Maybe we do get that timeline at some point. But moving on from that to talk about Black Myth Wukong for a second. Black Myth Wukong is doing so well in China that it is selling out PS5s, and also it has sold 10 million copies, which is a ridiculous amount, even more than I think the record was Scarlet and Violet for the Switch. With how fast this thing sold in 3 days. Obviously, when you look at the Steam numbers, most of that is in China, and then the rest of the world is like a much smaller number. Do you have any interest in this game, number one, and then number two, like, what do you make of this? Do you think this is a huge deal?
Well, it's a Chinese game, so
right.
it's selling out in China. Not exactly a huge surprise,
right? And it feels like it went over to like being not just gamers, right? You got people that unnecessary, like the casuals in China bought this thing. I think they gave a lot of people the day off in China as well to be able to kind of experience this. It wasn't just they made it a big deal. They made it a big deal.
They got to support the party somehow. So
yeah.
I mean, I guess it looks okay. Yeah. I have no, like, I wouldn't like turn it down if I got it, but I'm not gonna like a real rush out and buy it. I've already played Dragon Ball, so I know how the story ends.
Right. For me, it's one of those I'll definitely like look at it on a sale because it's not a Souls game. It's a more of an action game. I like those. It's not something I'm going to go run out and pay $60 for right now.
Right.
So, especially because it runs like absolute crap on the PS5, apparently.
So, when we get into what we played, I got a good game for that also.
Like, that's the thing too, right? Is again, PC is winning here because it's almost like Cyberpunk. It's running really well or decently enough on PC, and then on PS5 it's running badly. Not even in like quality mode it's running well. I think it has like 3 modes, and any of them aren't running that great. But even despite that, it's selling PS5s well enough. Do you think this?
It's cheaper to buy a PS5 than to buy a console. I didn't mean to buy a computer.
Yeah,
and again, it's technical hiccups of if you don't know a computer that well.
Right. I do think this bodes well for other Chinese devs. Was it Phantom Blades coming out also this year? That looks good. That's more of a Souls-like, I think, than this game is. But hey, that's good. That's good for the market. China is trying to, be a big player in this market, aside from just being like we own publishers and stuff like and dev studios like Tencent. We want to like be able to make our own games and kind of do like what we were seeing South Korea do, and kind of start making a name for themselves and not just be Japan kind of ruling all of Asia. So I'm down with that. I think that's good for Black Myth Wukong. Look, understandably, there are some issues with the game, and they did Randy and I talked about last week, the whole thing that they sent out to influencers about don't talk about this, don't talk about that kind of thing. And I think the game is getting a bit overhyped. It seems to be like it's not the next great amazing game. I saw some people be like, oh, if this doesn't win game of the year, then everything's kind of rigged. And it's like, okay, I think we're getting a little bit too far here with that. But
yeah, it has like an average rating like 80%.
Yeah,
or,
exactly.
That's not,
But speaking of a game that I think a lot of people had high hopes for and did not do that well, at least from early reviews. It has not come out in early access yet. That's going to be tomorrow. But I'm going to say these Star Wars Outlaws reviews have made it to where I don't think I'm going to spend the $18 for Ubisoft Plus.
Yeah.
I was kind of very excited for this, and it's like, okay, this seems like it's an okay game. It's not even a great game. A lot of sevens.
Yeah, 7s and 8s. I mean,
well, and then I'm seeing a lot of people, just individual people, rating it even lower, so that's not good either. It's, yeah, I don't know. What were your? I know you said you weren't necessarily. It's your kind of game, but you weren't interested in buying it.
Yeah, I'm not interested in the Star Wars part of it. That's my problem. I guess it looks fine from this gameplay and stuff, but I'm sick of Star Wars, so.
And at least they didn't set it, but like between 3 and 4. They set it like between 5 and 6. I think, which doesn't make it that much better, I guess.
Right.
Like I was still kind of interested because it's a different type of gameplay. It's not the Jedi stuff.
Well, yeah, but it's still. Yeah. I mean, yes, it's not this typical Star Wars stuff. The problem is now it's just typical Ubisoft stuff.
Yeah.
So that's you're trading one problem for another.
I've watched Kind of Funny, and I've watched a few others review the game, and I heard a lot of comparisons to Assassin's Creed 1 with the gameplay.
Yo, that's not good.
Yeah, and it's not good. It's very heavy stealth, and then the stealth is not good because the AI is not great. And it's either you fail or you just walk right by and nobody sees you. And then apparently the actual like shooting is not great either.
Yeah.
So it's like you're going for like the Star Wars vibes and stuff like that, but the gameplay aspect of it is not good, and that doesn't make me want to shell out $70, let alone $20. And when you have what we expect is probably going to be a great game in Astrobot coming out in a couple of weeks, I think I'm just gonna go with that.
Yeah.
So, if I was reviewing it and I'm not going out and spending money on it, I'm again, like I think, like you said about Black with Wukong, I'm not going to turn it down, but I'm not going to go out and I think justly spend money on it. And look, for y'all folks that are big Star Wars fans and you are going to spend money on it, or you are going to do the Ubisoft Plus, basically like a 30-day trial with it, and I hope you have fun. I hope you enjoy it. But I was expecting like bigger fanfare. Yeah, I was expecting, it's going to be a better game. And I think when you're getting into the fall season where there's going to be a lot of games that we're going to be interested in, you're not going to have as much time, and deciding what you're going to spend your money on is important. It's not like these last 3 or 4 months where we've kind of had a lot of dead time and there's not a lot of games coming out. So you're kind of like, all right, college football's probably the biggest game coming out anyway. If I didn't review it, I would have bought it. Same thing, like, okay, Black with Wukong, there's really not a lot. And like this, that's the thing. It's like Star Wars is coming out. Like this is the perfect time to come out because it's right before all these big games start coming out. And then it doesn't do well. And it's not good. I'm sure it'll do fine because it's a Star Wars game, but I'm pretty sure Ubisoft is expecting a lot better scores and a lot better praise for this game than it's been getting.
Yeah, but you can say with every Ubisoft game at this point, though. So
does this worry you for Assassin's Creed Shadows?
No, because I already know that's going to get tepid reviews.
You think so? It's Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, but those are a little dicey.
I mean, Valhalla was like beloved for the most part.
Yeah, but then I also played the last one. So.
Oh, Mirage. Yeah, you didn't like Mirage that much.
And they typically, I mean, it'd be nice if it was good, but that franchise is so uneven. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we knew about Star Wars, but Valve has been kind of like trying to be hush hush about Deadlock, even to the extent of banning people's accounts that talked about the game very openly, including The Verge, that kind of made a mockery of the whole. This wasn't an actual NDA. You just kind of had us sign something that's, before you started playing the game that said, please don't talk about it. But Deadlock is officially a 6v6 third-person hero shooter. The game is in early development, and there's a lot of temp stuff in the game right now. Of course, you can go play it if you get invited with the friends and family closed beta. Are you interested in this? And what do you think this will be good? I mean, and also, what's the point of it if they have Team Fortress 2? Like, is there?
Team Fortress 2 isn't 6-on-6, and they would really have to overhaul Team Fortress 2 as far as like unit, like abilities and stuff like that. It actually probably is easier for them to say, "Hey, I'm making something new." I thought it was extremely bad timing that they like the day I think they announced this Concord came out, or like the day after or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, ouch. You saw that as like the Overwatch 2 versus Battleborn thing from years ago. It's like, well, one of these games did well, and one of these games bombed horribly, but now both those games bombed horribly. So,
yeah,
I guess we'll see what happens. I don't know. I don't really have any interest, but I'm really done with the genre, so that's kind of why.
Yeah, I don't blame you on that. It is interesting that this is kind of coming out at a time where, okay, we have another hero game, Marvel Rivals, that people kind of seem to be interested in. Another game that's coming out in December, by the way. But that's also because it has the Marvel characters on it, right? How much we already saw, like, okay, Conquer basically took Guardians of the Galaxy, made characters, and then did Overwatch with it or whatever. And then now you have Deadlock, which we assume is going to have like no known other Valve characters in it.
It's not gonna be like that Poker Night game where they had like the heavy and strong bad and shit like that. Like it looks like it's on its own thing. I mean, here's the telling thing: is there are currently 73,000 people playing that game right now.
Right.
And it's not out. Like it's not. You can just go install it yourself. So
yeah. But that's not good. That's not bad to be in like a sort of like closed beta kind of thing for a while.
No,
figure out what's good and
that's
bad,
amazing to be in that. Like it's like fucking Redfall or Concord or whatever wishes they had these numbers.
Yeah. I mean, they couldn't even get enough people to play it on PS Plus when it was on there.
Yeah.
Right? And then when Steam, if you pre-ordered, you got like 5 codes to give out to friends, and they still couldn't get more than like 2,000 people at once.
Right.
Yeah, people just, I don't necessarily think it's burnout with the genre for everybody. I think it's just like it's too many.
I think the problem is like not enough of these people innovate.
Yeah, it's a lot of the same.
And people are hoping or wishing that that a new game from Valve will do something different. Whether or not it does, we'll see. But that's the hope anyway, because it's not like Overwatch 2 did anything different.
Yeah, definitely not. But staying on this thing with Steam, Randy Pitchford obviously has had a mixed week with the Borderlands movie bombing, and then of course he got to at least save it a little bit with the announcement of Borderlands 4. But he also kind of took to social media to talk about his comments that he made many years ago when Borderlands 3 was coming out. About, at that time, Tiny Tina and Borderlands 3 were both exclusive to the Epic Games Store, and he was talking about how, this is going to be the next big store. Steam is going to die. all of that stuff. It's this is a big viable competitor. And then he kind of says that basically like Epic shit the bed on their opportunity to overtake Steam. And now it's like, well, Steam is still existing. And so, he believes in Steam now. He's a Steam developer and a customer.
But I mean, that's like the most like backward thing, because it's not like, I mean, Borderlands 1 and 2 came out on Steam. Right. Believe me, they did way better than Borderlands 3 did.
I guess my point in this is that, we all know Epic Game Store is the only reason people even talk about it is because there's free games on it all the time. And if you have a good enough PC, I think you're going out there, you're just pressing add to library on them, and then you just shut off the store. I was doing that for a while, but I just didn't even bother because so.
Right. My point about this is Randy Pitchford needs to shut the fuck up.
Yeah. But I guess my question was to even have this on here is, do you think that what would a store have to do to be a viable competitor to Steam? And what could have Epic have done differently to try, harder, or like, where do they go wrong?
Epic's problem is that like people still only think they have Epic Games on there. Or, it doesn't help that it's named after the company. And I don't think there is the only viable alternative to me really is a Good Old Games, because they have a bunch of games on there that you can't get anywhere else, and they try to modernize them if they can. Like I think there's some Alpha Protocol just came like re-released on Good Old Games. And that was on Steam, by the way. I mean, they delisted it, I think. But like the Good Old Games version is like more modernized and can like run on like Windows 11 and has like better gamepad support and stuff like that. Epic didn't have like the social features that even Steam had at the time. And then I think Steam is still seen as like this huge, rightly so, as this huge, monolith, because they offer good service and Epic doesn't.
Yeah, there's security issues that were happening with Epic as well. I remember towards the beginning, I'm sure they might have patched some of those out.
But yeah.
But do you think that anybody could come along and maybe not usurp Steam, but actually be a competitor where it actually feels like it's a store you want to use? Or
it's a thing of like, I mean, there are a bunch of other Steam, like, Good Old Games or Itch.io or Itch, and then, but they all have their own special specialties, or like Itch is way more better for indie games and stuff like that. There isn't a way to compete, but that's not, I mean, people say it's like a monopoly, but it's like, well, you can still get games somewhere else. I mean,
Steam doesn't prevent you, but you can even sell your Steam keys on other websites and buy them cheaper and then still play them on Steam. I mean,
right.
So, a Humble Bundle, you could buy them on there for a while. So
people always say like a monopoly is bad, but it's like, well, bad for who? Because if the consumer's happy and the developer's reasonably happy, who's it bad for then?
Yeah, I think there's like those de facto monopolies that they're a monopoly because they are the best at what they do. And then there's the Google monopoly that they, the court just basically said that Google paid people to make sure they were number one. Not necessarily that they were the best or whatever. And then, of course, we know what Google is doing to SEO and basically screwing websites left and right now.
Yeah.
So not to mention, that also affects YouTube as well, how you're seen on YouTube. So I think, look, I think people are going to cry about the monopoly thing for forever, but Steam does sales. Steam does things. I mean, they're not the sales that they used to be, but I think that's more because of the developers can't really afford to put their games that low anymore because gaming is in such a different way than it is now. So I don't think Randy Pitchford had a point. I think back then that Steam did need a competitor, but Epic kind of screwed that themselves by Not only that, but the studios they purchase, they're purchasing like big multiplayer games that need to be everywhere, like Rocket League and Fall Guys and things like that. Like you don't want to go make you try to go make those exclusive on the Epic Games Store, but they're still everywhere else. So you're not driving people to the store. You're driving people. There's no reason to really have Epic Games Store other than the free games, and then sometimes they'll do exclusives, like when they put Kingdom Hearts on there or Alan Wake 2 or whatever, and then it's like, what happened? This Kingdom Hearts collection just releases on Steam not too long ago, and it felt like a huge deal, whereas the Epic Games one, it was like a wet fart. It was
that's the other thing is I'd love to ask Randy or like an actual legitimate developer who's like Epic exclusive. It's like, okay, the game was on Epic for a year. What were the sales like, either first day or even like for the first year versus your first day on Steam?
Like at least they, at least they're going to, you get the whole, I only got to take 12% thing. But I mean, how much are you really getting, because you don't have not even close to the number of people that are buying it on Steam?
That's always, that's always been my argument against even like Game Pass. So
yeah, and you're right about that, because there's a lot of but PC players are they're different. They're just bred differently that way. Like, you guys are just good about, I want to go buy my game, have my game on Steam. I own it now. It's in the library. I don't. Steam people don't even want to go on another store that you're not paying any more or less for it. You just want it to be all on Steam. And I think that's what makes some of those other stores work, is you can also just put your game into the Steam library from there. Whereas Epic, for the longest time, because they were competing, they didn't want to do that. So I think now you can, though, right? Now you can put you can get it from your computer, and at least it'll still load the Epic Games thing, but you can have it in the Steam library, right?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't have any Epic Games game, stuff. So
Hyper Light Breaker has been delayed again to at sometime in 2024, which isn't great. Sucks to hear that this game is getting delayed again. It feels like it's constantly been delayed. But I'd rather it come out in early access and be good, and not come out in early access and you're having to spend time fixing it. So I don't know. Were you interested in this? Because I know they made it different than the Hyper Light Drifter.
I didn't play the first one, so
yeah. I liked Hyper Light Drifter a lot, so I was kind of always interested in this. But I guess we'll just have to wait. We have been. And then also announced is the Atari 7800, which you could play 2600 and 7800 carts. There are new games being made for this thing. There's one game that's included called Bentley Bears Crystal Quest. It does have HDMI for modern TVs, and it has a wireless gamepad. I don't know why you wouldn't just put Bluetooth in it, but okay. I know you like your retro stuff. Have you seen?
But I draw the line at Atari. I had one once, but I couldn't even figure out how to hook it up to a TV. So I've never actually played an Atari game or Atari system.
Well, they have that VCS thing.
Yeah, I didn't play it. Yeah. I think I draw like with old movies. Past a certain point, I pretty much check out unless it's like a really big classic or something.
Right.
And aside from like Pitfall and Barnstorming, I can't think of too many other Atari 2600 games or no 5800 games.
Yeah, I agree. Atari was way past my generation as well. I only played it one time because my dad had one that he never used, and my grandparents still had it. I hooked it up one time and played a few games on it. I was like, okay, this is way beyond me.
Yep.
So I don't have any nostalgia for this thing.
I mean, I guess it's cool for the people who do.
That's the thing. I don't think this is going to sell amazing well. This is we're talking about old school collectors. I don't even know that Randy would go after this thing, and he likes having everything. You know, you're also a collector too. You're saying that you wouldn't go buy this either,
right?
So
I mean, I think for collectors, they have to have some nostalgia for the system. I mean, I
right.
guess there are the collectors who just buy everything, but those
And
are
then
few
also
and
it's
far
like,
between.
what are you going to charge for this thing?
I'd say
And
$100.
plus it's like 100. Okay,
Maybe
I guess that's
150,
fair.
but they're not going to charge like 300 for it.
No, I mean you definitely can't, especially when you're only including one game. It's not even like you're including like a bunch of games. All this other stuff's going to be separate for you to buy. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the episode here. Unless you have anything else you wanted to. Oh, I'm sorry. The games you've been playing. Go ahead.
Yep. Still playing Shadow Ring or Shadow of the Erd Tree with Jens, Elden Ring. But the big one is I got Robocop Rogue City on PS5.
Okay.
I got it
How's
from
that?
Jens' account and it was funny because when I was downloading it, he only had put like 30 minutes into it before I said, "Oh fuck this."
Yeah. Yeah.
So and he didn't like how it played at all. I liked
Okay.
the game in theory, but if I was going to give it a score, I would like score it two different ways. I'd score it like as a game, it'd probably be like 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
On PS5, I'd score it like a 4 or 5.
Why is it that bad on PS5?
Yeah, it has a lot of technical problems. The big three
Okay.
I noticed were, and this is a common thing by the way, during cinematics, every time the camera shifts or there's a camera cut, the actor or the NPC or whatever character checkerboards for like a split second every
Amazing.
single time. And this game's been out 9 months and they didn't fix it because I was looking up. I was like, "Am I going crazy?" And I googled it, and I'm like, "No." Everyone, this Reddit thread is from 9 months ago. And he even brought it up to Jens, and he was like, "Wow, they still didn't fix that." I'm like, "Because he noticed it too."
Yeah, because I remember this is it was a really well liked game when it
Yeah,
came out.
not on PS5. The other two problems, actually 3 problems. One time it crashed my PS5 hard, and I mean like an error I never saw before. Because normally, like when a game crashes, it's like, "Oh, the game software has reached an error or an unexpected error." This thing, I got to a point and I wanted to like minimize the game for a second, so I hit the PS button, and nothing happened. And I was like, "That's new." And I even hit the microphone button, and that didn't like light up or anything. And I was like, "Okay." I
Wow.
closed the game. I went to the main menu of the game, and then it closed itself. And then it was like, "Your system software has encountered an error." And I was like,
Wow.
"Whoa, okay." And I was like, "You need to reset." And I'm like, "All right, fine." Uh, During one cinematic, one recent one, I'm watching like a newscast on the screen with this like news reporter. It played halfway through, and then it's supposed to cut to like this mayor candidate talking. But instead of cutting, it just played as audio, and the cutscene like basically like restarted itself, or like looped back around, and it's just a new reporter talking again. And I was like, "Yep, quality." And the last one was the big one actually. One of the big ones is the third level. You're in this like really big like steel quarry or steel factory or something like that. But it's like a really big environment. It's not like a corridor or anything. Like it's like pretty outdoors. And after 10 minutes of playing, the frame rate drops to about 12 frames per second,
Wow.
which makes the mandatory sniping sequences in the game a whole lot of fun.
Oh, God.
But the second you go back out, or you go into like a building or something, because it loads into like another indoor building or
Yeah.
environment, 60 frames a second, and then it would just perk right back up. I'd go outside and it would be fine for like a little bit, but then drop down again.
Damn.
And I was like, "Yeah." And it's only the PS5 version because the Xbox version seems okay, or that's what I've read. And it's been 9 months, and they're obviously not going to fix it,
Yeah.
so that's cool. I
Oh,
like it.
I'm sorry.
It reminds me of the first, not Dark City, the Darkness
Okay, the
game,
dark. All right. Yeah.
which is cool. And I like Robocop, so that helps.
Yeah, I guess it is a PS5 phone because I remember a lot of people on PC, Xbox liking it a lot.
Yeah.
Didn't have that many problems. I guess PS5 just some reason got the
it's a mess.
borked version there.
Yep.
I haven't really been. This is the first week. The other 3 weeks I've been playing at least something. This one I really haven't. So I'm gonna get back on that. But since we have a little bit of time before Astrobot comes and consumes my life until then.
Right.
So yeah, next week I'll definitely at least have one game to talk about here.
Yep.
And yeah, speaking of games that are still coming, though, of course, if you want to spend them, go ahead. Sorry.
You want to talk about Deadpool, didn't you?
Well, we can do it quickly here. What did you think of the movie?
It was good. I thought it was better than the second one, personally. But it requires a lot of insider knowledge or like a lot of backup knowledge that if you don't have, you're just kind of screwed.
I mean, I don't know why you would watch this movie if you didn't at least have a cursory knowledge of the,
because it's the biggest movie, or like I'm sure there are a fair amount of people who saw it that, like my mom, who she somehow likes Deadpool for like some ungodly known reason.
Right, but I think if you watch the 3 Deadpool movies, I think you get most of it.
No, you don't.
Maybe
not at all. Like, because you're missing like Logan or all the
right, but
ancillary characters that show up.
Yeah, you're not getting the cameos and things like that, but I mean, like, you're getting most of the stuff, and then, but yes, they are putting in like the, stuff with the TVA and other thing. There is that kind of stuff. There's shouts to the old, even older MCU films, and it is kind of like a sort of like them saying, "Oh, all this stuff is part of the MCU now. It's not just." The stuff that we name as the MCU, which is cool. Good that they're like canonizing all that stuff now that they own it. Obviously, it helps.
Right.
They probably wouldn't have done that if they didn't own Fox. Let's be honest.
Yep.
I enjoyed it. It made me laugh a lot. It has some good action. That's what you want out of a Deadpool movie. Hugh Jackman, to me, great as Wolverine. Love the joke about we're going to make you do this to your 90 thing, which I'm sure he's probably like signed up for quite a few more movies.
I doubt it. I think this kind of was it for him,
I don't know. I think he'll make an appearance in one of the other MCUs, and then I think they'll pass it off. I think that'll kind of be the point of one of these Avengers movies, is they'll pass it off to a younger generation before we get to like that last Avengers 6 or whatever. Because I mean, they have to if they want to keep it going. Like, these people cannot possibly keep going. Like,
I mean, he's 55. Like, see too many more Wolverine movies in his future.
I mean, like, even Robert Downey Jr., like, he cannot keep just being in these movies. Like, at some point, they're gonna have to like let a new generation. I mean, they're trying to do that already with all these other ones, but I mean, now you're gonna have Chris Evans show up again, whether it's whichever form he's gonna take. You're going to have all these other people come in. I'm sure that we're in the other movies that now they've kind of tried to move past of. So, I mean, even Tom Holland is starting to get to the point where he's like, okay, I'm not going to do Spider-Man for the rest of my life either. So, they got to figure out something. But I think as a kind of like a, this is it kind of thing to the Fox movies and like the original Deadpool stuff, I thought that was great. Like, that was fun. It deserves the big money that it got or whatever, So yeah, I'm happy that it didn't, because everybody was worried about if this movie doesn't do well, where's the MCU going to be at now? And thankfully it did do well enough. It seems like that they can kind of be okay with what's going forward. So we'll see.
Next week when it hits digital, we can talk about the Borderlands movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's just ridiculous that thing's already hitting digital. Absolutely insane. No, it is just from the fact of like, wow, it was that bad.
Oh yeah,
it was that bad that it didn't even last more than like a week until it just bombed, and when only made like 50 million worldwide or something. It was ridiculous crazy.
Even that is, it's surprising.
Yeah. So really quick, because I got to start working again here for the stuff that's coming out. This week, already mentioned it. If you want to go get Star Wars Outlaws early, you can, or you can just wait till the 30th when it comes out for everybody. I would recommend don't spend that extra $30. That's just you're wasting money. World of Warcraft also comes out, the new expansion.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get a code.
That's coming out. Core Keeper also coming out. That looks pretty interesting. Indie game there as well. Risk of Rain 2 is coming to console.
Cool. And I'm sure Jens will hate it also on there. I thought Risk of Rain 2 was already on console, honestly.
Well, it shows that there's coming out to PS5 and Series X.
Modern console. Okay.
Yeah.
PS4 and stuff already.
And then the DLC will come out after with that as well. The Emio Smiling Man Famicom story thing for Switch also comes out. Gundam Breaker 4 also comes out as well on the 29th. That looks cool if you like Gundams. Definitely go check that out. Vampire Survivors comes to PS4 and PS5. If you haven't played that yet, definitely go do it. It's a terrific game. And Visions of Mana also comes out this week. A game that I feel like people have not talked about enough. It's like really going under the radar here. I wonder how well it's going to do sales wise.
Right.
On that front, honestly. I hope it does well because don't like seeing those games just kind of like come out and do nothing. But we'll see. Yeah. And then we're going to be hitting September. There's going to be some big games coming out for then. But that'll be for next week. Until then, everybody, see you later.
Later.